Columns of Russian tanks and troops rolled into the American-backed former Soviet Republic of Georgia today after a nighttime barrage of artillery fire and rockets.
For 2 decades, the West accepted Putin, despite his aggression, buying the idea that a friendly relationship would appease him.
Ukraine's new government calls it an invasion and occupation by Russian forces. Moscow denies any involvement.
The French leader claims Vladimir Putin personally assured him that Russia would not escalate the crisis in Ukraine.
Not everyone agreed.
Vladimir Putin himself made his goals very, very clear. To destroy Ukrainian statehood.
This apartment building was struck in eastern Ukraine. It was unprovoked.
Recognizing this destructive trend, at the end of August 2014, I wrote that Ukraine would be the next target.
Russia claims it has no plans to invade and blames the US.
Russia invaded Ukraine February 24th.
This is what Russian President Vladimir Putin unleashed on Ukraine.
And being asked why I thought so, my answer was very simple. I looked at the map.
Russia had Ukraine surrounded. In the north, the Belarusian government of dictator Alexander Lukashenko followed Putin's orders as a loyal satellite state. In the east, Russian forces occupied Ukrainian land and fought to claim more. In the south, Crimea had been totally severed from the rest of Ukraine as Russia annexed it after invading in 2014.
16,000 Russian troops are now deployed in the Crimea region of the Ukraine.
30,000 Russian troops.
Now 130,000 troops, Russian troops.
150,000 Russian troops had been surrounding Ukraine for days.
When over 100,000 Russian troops surrounded Ukraine in early 2022, Western intelligence said that Kyiv would fall within 96 hours.
And Putin expected that his troops would be in Kyiv, as everybody else expected, in 3, 4 days, 5 days. And then he had no doubt, and I think he was right, expecting Western leaders to negotiate, coming back, crawling to him, begging him to save a little bit of Ukraine, and then he would be listing his demands.
2 decades of light treatment from Western governments convinced Putin he wouldn't face serious consequences for invading Ukraine. Then the order came.
Мною принято решение о проведении специальной военной операции.
Facing constant attacks and widespread war crimes,
Возили, били, повезли додому, зробили обшук, забрали все цінне, а що там в мене, в тому числі алкоголь, забрали весь.
The Ukrainian people could have abandoned their homes or given in. Instead, they rallied together. Seemingly overnight, thousands of organizations were formed across Ukraine to keep the country and its people alive.
I was born in Ukraine and I moved to the United States in 2003 when I was a teenager.
Maria Soroka co-founded the organization Razum during the Revolution of Dignity and Russian invasion of Crimea in 2014.
We have provided tactical medicine to the defenders, also communication devices. On top of that, we have partnered with 120 NGOs in Ukraine that are providing humanitarian aid to civilians. We brought 11 doctors and 5 nurses to Ivano-Frankivsk, which is a city in western Ukraine, and we spent 5 days in Ukraine. Every day we operated. We had 3 ORs and we operated on 32 people. Most of them were military personnel that was affected by the war. All of it was facial and neck surgery.
So my name is Gregory Mashkevich. I'm a surgeon involved in the humanitarian surgical mission to Ukraine. We are here to help the victims of war. We have been treating injuries of all types, mainly related to the head and neck area, from gunshot wounds to mine explosions, and the stories are borderline horrific. we've been doing this at a very high level at home. Many of us are members of the American Academy of Facial Plastic and Reconstructive Surgery. Several of us are microsurgeons by training, and we're able to do a whole range of reconstructive surgeries, which unfortunately fits the range of injuries that we have treated here.
This is a long-term process. This is an ongoing thing. To take care of the patients that we operated on in September, but also to continue training of Ukrainian doctors to do these type of surgeries on their own.
Certainly thinking about the impact that some of these injuries are making. These are lives that have absolutely turned upside down. We have young people who cannot see. We have people who cannot talk or properly eat. Just scarred for life. And that's a very difficult thing to observe.
War is hell. The harsh reality is that the Ukrainian people who have endured unimaginable suffering are some of the lucky ones. We traveled to Izium, the small city that made international headlines for uncovering mass graves of hundreds of civilians after Russian soldiers retreated. On the outskirts of the city, crews worked to locate and recover the remains of their dead countrymen. How many bodies have you guys pulled so far?
10 so far.
Okay, 10.
My team, 10.
Okay, and this is the newest site.
That was quite old.
Mm-hmm.
The bodies seemed to be a lot older, a lot more decayed. This was slightly newer.
Okay, and were they mostly soldiers, civilians?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
There were some military-style boots.
Okay.
But I couldn't give you an educated decision on that.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Even in the face of these terrible crimes, the Ukrainian people are unbroken. Western arms are giving Ukraine momentum, and the Russian military has been forced to retreat to defensive positions.
Putin made the same mistake as every dictator made before him. He underestimated the will of free people.
In every single generation, we have victims of these, Russian war crimes. And today, people want to put a stop to this.
And this empire caused so much suffering. Even today, remains the center of global tension.
But what's happening in Ukraine and the Ukrainian resistance, what Ukrainians are showing is that it is, in fact, not that easy to invade a country and take over a country.
What's happening in Ukraine now is the impending collapse of Russian military machine.
Yes, contact!
The collapse of Russian empire is inevitable.
They have exposed the weakness of Russia.
It's a sign of every dictatorship. So dictatorships, they pretend to be very effective because they look, discipline, marching people, versus central command. But when they face democracies, free people, the spirit of free society that revolted against any attempts to undermine the will of free people. And that's what something that Putin couldn't even sense. I mean, it's just dictators, they just don't understand. This is the language that goes beyond their comprehension.
Putin, like many dictators around the world, is waging a war against freedom, and the people of Ukraine are his latest target.
the story of this war, it's the best demonstration what free people are capable of, even just beyond their own expectations.
This is not going to go well for Russia. Until the last moment, I did not think you would come, but you are crazy enough to do that. So I'm very happy that that happened.